Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the 7th episode of the Hunt the Wild podcast. Today, I'm joined by Wes Becker. How you doing, Wes?
I'm doing great. Doing good.
Good to hear, man. Wes is a big public land guy. He spends some time in Ohio, traveling over there. And could you tell everybody a little bit about yourself, Wes, and kind of what your deal is, and then we'll jump in straight into some of this public land hunting.
Yeah, I've been hunting since I was old enough to hunt legally. Um, I've been hunting since I was 12 years old. I'm 35 now, so makes it like 20 some odd years. um, I started hunting on private land, on some family land, and that's where I learned. That's where I shot my first deer, and a couple deer after that. Um, Went off to college and started my career, and I kind of slowed down hunting for a little bit, but I always went out at least a couple times a year. And then in that time, we kind of lost access to that private. So most of my adult hunting career has been out on public land, mostly in Michigan, heavily pressured areas. Um, And then for the last 10 years, I go down to Ohio for a week, right during the peak rut, not peak rut, but pre-rut, first week of September, November. And yeah, we do that every year. Then we come back up to Michigan for the gun opener and finish the season out there.
Are you glad you kind of transitioned from away from private to public? How come, or maybe have you ever tried to get more private permission, or you're just kind of focused on public now because you kind of enjoy the game of it? I know it's a little bit of a grind, but it's enjoyable at the same time in a weird way.
Yeah, at first I did not enjoy it because I had the luxury of having 80 acres to hunt on.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'm not a type of person to go out and ask for stuff, so I always felt uncomfortable going to knock on people's doors. So I went to the public land because I was familiar with the area, and I had a hard time at first, um, just because I always hunted on bait in one spot, and we would just go to the same spot over and over and over again. That's how I kind of learned.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and you do that on heavily pressured public land, you may see deer the first night you sit, and then it drops off drastically after that. So a few years ago, my life was changing a little bit, where I had to be more productive out in the woods. So I kind of on my own adopted like a mobile style hunting. I had some steps and tree stand on my back, and I kind of started off that way, and I had better luck. I would see more deer, and then I got watching the Hunting Beast, and I've been really following Dan Infalt a lot the last few years, and I've gotten a saddle since then to make me a lot more mobile, and I'm just hunting sign, and my last couple of years have been successful for me.
Yeah, you enjoy chasing them like that a little more than sitting on that bait pile, huh?
Oh yeah, yeah. The bait pile thing was kind of frustrating because after the first sit, they got nervous about bait. They never really came to the bait. If I did see deer, it was yearlings, 1.5-year-old deer. Nothing that I would consider taking. So yeah, once I started the transition of getting away from the bait and hunting the sign, and it got a lot better for me.
That's funny. You mentioned about not wanting to knock on doors. Right before we jumped on here, I was typing up some permission letters to send out. And sometimes I'll door knock. I've done it a couple times, and it makes me super super nervous. But with COVID and all this stuff kind of ramping back up, I thought maybe I'd send out some
Mhm.
letters. I've been kind of looking on Onyx a little bit at some properties around me, and because sometimes there's some public around me, but sometimes I don't have time, after work or something to travel, an hour, or even 45 minutes. So I'm trying to get me a couple of honey holes maybe to uh, hunt, closer to home, 10, 15 minutes away. But I want to jump
Yeah.
into some of this public land stuff. So we'll just go right into it. Could you kind of run me through like your ideal piece of public ground, kind of what it looks like? I don't know if you use OnX or whatever you're using to like scout online aerial maps and such, but what are you kind of like looking for when you find a piece? Like if you find a WMA or something, it's a big chunk of
Um,
ground. How are you narrowing it down and deciding where to hunt at?
I do use OnX, and lately I've been focusing on uh, creeks or rivers, clear cuts, mostly clear cuts, and I try to find those transitional areas.
Mm-hmm.
And then from there, it's boots on the ground. See what's in there, what's the food source, water source if needed. This year it's been kind of wet up here, so water shouldn't be a crazy thing to really focus in on. Um, yeah, then I look for the food and the sign. I always just hunt the sign.
Are you looking for different terrain features versus in Michigan and in Ohio? Like, are you pretty much using kind of the same game? Like, you're looking for points and you're looking for like transitions and all that stuff, or is it a little different in Michigan as it is Ohio? I've never hunted either one of those.
Where I hunt in Michigan, it's very flat. It's note if there is a hill, it's only a few feet high. It's more of a bump in the landscape.
Mm-hmm.
So I try to find those thick areas coming into a food source. In Ohio, it's very hilly. So I try to look for those transition points where they're coming out of bedding and finding the food up on the ridges. Yeah, that's that's basically
Yeah.
what I do. I try to find the sign. You look on the ridges. You always seem to find sign on the ridges, but in my experience in Ohio, they're always down, either bedding in the thick stuff, and watching someone to come down the hill or watching up the hill, and yeah,
Yeah.
you just
So I started hunting Kentucky, which is only the area I hunt's only about 30 minutes from my house, but I live in Indiana. So I started hunting that a couple years ago. When the area I hunt is like super hilly like that, like kind of like you describe Ohio, but back here at home, it's super, super flat, like just a bump maybe in the landscape. And I've been struggling kind of with different terrain features, even though it's only 30 minutes away. It's like different, like it's a different state, but it's like it's just totally different. So I know that hilly terrain. I kind of this year been battling with it, and I recently went to another spot on the property that's a little more flat, kind of like Indiana, and I'm having a little more success there. I think some of that hilly terrain, I'm just not. It's hard to get used to when you didn't grow up hunting that kind of stuff. It's really hard to
yeah, it
figure them out
is.
sometimes.
Yeah, it is. It's totally different.
Are you so I mentioned that I just started moving to like some smaller tracts. Are you looking for big tracts of land? Are you looking for small tracts of land within that public? I've kind of got this idea in my head now that all these guys are going to these big tracts, and these little, 10 or 15, 20 acre tracts are getting overlooked. And for me, I've hunted an area once and it seemed to be paying off, and I've kind of moved in that direction. I kind of want to get your thoughts on that.
Um, from where I'm from and where I hunt, all the public land is somewhat small tracts.
Okay.
I mean, everything's divided in square miles. So you'll
Okay.
have little bits of private along the edges of that mile. And then inside that mile is all public.
Okay.
So there's not really one central parking lot. There's a parking lot on each mile. or maybe even 2. So if you decide to go way back there and the guy on the other side of the mile might want to, hey, I'm going to get way off the road and get away from people. I've met up with people in the middle.
Yep. I've played that game here in Indiana. We have a local spot that's like that. If you get too far away from the truck, you're going to hit the next road. And by that, I mean like less than a half a mile. So that can be tricky too.
And I think depending on what the food source is, where I hunt public land in Michigan, it's surrounded by agriculture. So that public land will hold a lot more deer. Now you go up north in Michigan where you have these vast areas, your deer numbers per square mile are going to be down. But at the same time, you can go in there a long ways. And I feel you go in there a long ways, the more mature deer are going to be back there. So it's a give and a take kind of thing in my experience.
I know. When does Michigan's bow season air? Is it October 1st?
Yeah, it's October 1st.
I know a lot of public ground gets pounded during gun season, and public gets pounded during archery season a little bit too in some areas. Is it pretty pounded, pretty busy with people there, like during archery season on public property? Or are you kind of like, it's not too bad until gun season comes in? Or are you like the first day, you're like, man, there's a ton of people here?
It seems like the first day of archery, there's probably someone in each parking lot. And then it kind of drifts away where you're probably not going to run into anyone. Gun season, the first week. Yeah, weather, and then people kind of get it out of their systems. It's not the first weekend anymore. The Michigan game's on, or something like that. So as the weeks go on, you'll see less and less. And then right around November, the rut is starting. They're starting to chase those. You'll see more people out there, but it's not unmanageable. Now, when November 15th rolls around, there's so many guys out there. I made it a year before on opening day, but last year with COVID, there were so many more people out there. I didn't even go out opening firearm. No, there's too many people out here.
I talked to another guest.
I actually canceled my day off of work and just went to work.
Oh, well. I talked to another guest on here. I don't remember which show it was, but I was kind of asking him about if he had like seen the effect of COVID and like hunter numbers up, because I had heard a lot of that going on, like more people out because of COVID and everything. But I think that he told me he didn't notice a whole lot. So it's interesting to hear you say that the numbers were way, way up. So I wonder if that has to do with how bad COVID is in a certain area and all that stuff as well.
Oh, I don't know where that guy was from, but in Michigan, everyone was locked down for so long. And even at the beginning of gun season, a lot of people weren't back to work yet. So I think it was boredom, and I can't afford meat in the grocery store. I'm going to go buy my $20 tag and see if I can't get a few pounds of meat. So I think there was a little bit of that too.
It's funny how you talk about getting closer to gun season, how you see like a lot more people out, probably scouting and hanging stands and stuff. I always laugh the weekend before like a gun season opener here in Indiana. Like if I'm at Walmart, or we have a local, like a farm and feed store, Rural King here. I don't know if you're familiar with it, but always the weekend before season, you'll see everybody in there buying stands and buying all the stuff. And I don't know, it gets kind of comical to me because I've been preparing since like March, or really all year long. So I'm like, yeah, it's going to get pounded for a couple weeks, and then we'll be back to normal or close to normal.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people, and me included, not that I live super far from Kentucky, but I started hunting other states recently, and I think that might be like a thing people enjoy. Like if they don't live too far away. They can hop over to the next state 1 or 2 hours and start hunting. I want to kind of get into some traveling to other states. Like I know you go to Ohio or whatever every year. How do you prep for that? And what's some stuff that you've learned, maybe some mistakes you've made or some gear packing tips or some land scouting trip tips or something like that? How could you maybe help others that don't really know? They're just like thinking about it, but they don't really know where to start.
Well, I started pre-Onyx. So when we started, we just went there and walked in the woods and learned it. Now with Onyx and other apps you can go in and really scroll down and get right into what the terrain looks like. I would do that first, pick an area or find an area on Onyx. And then after that, it's just getting there and getting boots on the ground, because that's the best thing you can do. Go in there, find those ridges, find those pinch points, saddles, anywhere you think there would be a deer, and go hunt the sign, go find the sign. And don't have any serious expectations to kill a deer the first night. Really the first couple of nights should be only for observation, moving your setup, and continue scouting, hunt and scout at the same time. And when you get on them, you just have to stay with them.
Let me ask you this: Are you going in a day or two early, or are you going there? You going in the woods your first day? Are you scouting your way in to hunt? Or are you putting boots on the ground, looking around before you go in?
Well, we've been going to the same area for a couple of years now, so we know it pretty well. So
okay,
if we get to wherever we're staying at, we unpack, we throw our stuff out of the truck, put the stuff that we need on the hunting on in, and we're off. We're hunting that evening. So, but at first it was, we're just going to scout around. We'll scout the afternoon and see if we can't find a spot to hunt in the morning. And then if you are able to find a spot in the morning after, you're done with your morning hunt, you can go scout some more, and you just kind of stay out there all day and scout and hunt. And that's all I can say, really. It's you have to get on the ground and
are you guys sleeping in your trucks? Are you sleeping in a campground in a camper? Are you staying in a hotel? Or what would you recommend for that? How far away from the property are you staying?
We found a state park that rents out cabins.
Okay.
And so we stay there in a cabin. It's a group of us. It's like 8 of us are going this year. And, we all chip in, and it's kind of a nice, cheap vacation. And, and it's only about 10 minutes from where we hunt. It's not like it's a long ways. So we can get right in there.
I'm sorry, go ahead. There's a little bit of a delay.
I was just going to say, you can just get in there and start hunting right away. And so it's not a big deal. It's only 10 minutes away. It's not far, and we're ready to hunt.
Would you recommend people, if they want to do this kind of hunt, I know every area is going to be different, but just to kind of put some perspective in it, how early do you book your cabins or your hotel, or what would you say people should look in the spring? Don't wait till 2 weeks prior, right? Because they probably fill up.
Look in the spring right away, because they will fill up on you as soon as you can. There's a couple times we got a cabin, then when we were leaving, we booked it for the next year.
Yeah, nobody's thinking about deer hunting in April, are they?
No, well, most people not. I am. But, well, a group of guys we go with, we're thinking about it in April. It's time to go. We got to get the cabin set up, and we have done the camper thing before, and I don't know, with 8 guys, 6 to 8 guys, it's just not it's not fun anymore. Once you're out of the woods, you're kind of all crammed together, and
Yeah,
so
like to
we
have the
opt out for the cabin.
little comfort. What
Yeah,
does an out of state tag in Ohio cost? Do you know?
your non-resident tag as of this year with your non-resident hunting license and your either sex tag all together is $258. It's going to be
Hmm.
this year.
That's a
It was
little.
that.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say that's the same that they had last year. They increased them 5 years ago. It was $150. So
Oh
they
wow.
increased them about $50, like 3 rounds, and so it's gotten a little bit more expensive the last couple of years, but we still we just love that hunt, so we just keep forking out the cash and getting the licenses.
What do you get with your tag? Is it just a buck and a doe, or two does and a buck?
You can buy the one either sex tag, and you can get either a buck or a doe with that.
Okay.
Depending on the area, most of Ohio is just one buck, I believe, and then it depends on what region, how many does they can get. So if you shoot a buck, you can go and get another either sex tag, but it's going to have to be a doe because you already got your buck.
Yeah, 250 250 is definitely reasonable. I pay 3 to 350, I think, somewhere in there for Kentucky. And Illinois, which I don't hunt, but I have looked into, is about 500. So
Yeah.
250 to me, it's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. And
It's always a
Iowa.
lot, but
Yeah, and it's not guaranteed either. That's for me it's a good time, but for other people in my household that's sometimes hard to swallow.
I want to kind of like play as a scenario, kind of like we are we're gonna join you. You're packing up your truck and you're heading to Ohio, and you just got there. Um, how are you battling pressure on public land as far as other hunters? If you see tons and tons of vehicles, or maybe 3 or 4 vehicles in the parking lot of your spot, do you pack up and move? You tell the guys, let's get another plan together. You're going in no matter what. What's kind of your deal with that? I mean, because I'm sure that people just show up randomly, and your plans probably change a lot.
Yeah, that happens more or less in Michigan than it ever happened in Ohio. In
Okay.
Ohio, we've encountered like maybe a car where we'd park, and I'm like, well, it's public land, so if we walk by them, that sucks for them, I guess. I don't know. It's public
Yeah.
land. Everyone has the right to be there, even them and you. So it's a good thing and a bad thing because people are out there hunting. But at the same, you don't really want to screw up someone else's hunt. I try to get out there early. If there's someone there, I know I'm not probably going to screw up their morning hunt. I try to avoid people as much as possible. If I know someone's set up there, I'll go around them or I'll find a different access. I really try not to just blatantly walk past people, but
Sometimes you
it
have
does
to.
happen on public land. Yep.
Yeah. Do you look at license plates when you're like around that area, people hunting and stuff? Are most people from Ohio, or do you see very many out of staters?
In Ohio, yes. I see very actually little Ohio people there. We see a bunch of people from Vermont, West Virginia, South Carolina, and Michigan. Those are the 3 big ones you'll see. You'll see a few from New York. I think I've seen people from New Jersey there. But yeah, all over the place.
Oh,
People
Ohio's kind of
in
been growing
Ohio.
in popularity, hasn't it, over the past couple of years? It seems like I've been hearing a
It
lot about it.
has. You watch the Outdoor Channel, and if they're not in Iowa or Illinois, they're probably in Ohio, and that's been the trend last couple of years. And you got to think it's the first big buck state from the east. So everyone from the East Coast is just going to go to Ohio because it's the farthest east, it's the closest one.
Yeah.
So,
So
and the licenses are reasonably priced. They're not the $600 in Iowa, the 500 and some in Illinois.
yeah.
It's reasonably priced. So you just stop there.
So I said we were going to kind of play this scenario, but now I'm going to jump around because I got a question. Do you use trail cameras? Maybe not just in Ohio. Maybe you don't use them there, but back home, do you use trail cameras?
I've never really had a lot of luck with trail cameras.
Okay.
Um, I'm going to use them differently this year. This year, I'm just going to find a spot that I don't really plan on hunting too much this year and put one up and see what goes on throughout the whole year. See how many people are coming through. See how many deer are coming through. See what it's just all like. That's what I'm going to try this year. In Ohio, I always take a camera. If I find a scrape or a good trail or some kind of sign, I'll throw it up just to see if something's in there.
Oh, so
But
you do
all
you
in
do
all,
use them in Ohio then too as well, even for short periods of time.
yeah, if I just want to see what's in a 2-day stretch, if anything's going through there, I can go in there really quick and just set one up and walk away. And if I don't have any luck on the other places I'm hunting, I'll just go back there and check the camera. And if there's deer on there, I'll set up that day.
So I've dealt with some thieving on public land with cameras and stands over the years, and I kind of want to know how you battle that with trail cameras. Are you locking them, or are you just putting them out and hoping somebody is not going to steal it? You hanging them up high and pointing them down? What do you do about that?
I've always just hung them and just prayed that no one stole them. This year I'm going to try hanging them up high since I'm leaving it out there for a long periods of time. But it's the name of the game. It's public land. You're going to have people who are going to just steal. That's why I don't spend too much money on them. If I put one out, it's an older one. All I want is pictures anyway, so I don't really care if it has good video quality. So if you just put cheaper cameras out there and they get stolen, you're not out a ton of money.
I really like you can get like a $30 or $40 Wild Game Innovations camera from Dick's Sporting Goods, or probably wherever they carry them. But I really like those for public land. They don't take the best photos, but they're good enough to tell you if a buck's in the area. You might not be able to count the fur on him, but yeah, I mean,
Yeah, that's all I care about is if I'm not going to hang its picture on my wall. So it's just going to be, I just want to see if it's there or not.
are you have you ever used like the screw-in brackets? You screw them in the tree, and then you screw the other part to your camera, and then it screws in just like a bow hanger would, or a screw-in step. And then you can put it up, maybe take a stick in with you. You can put it up maybe 3 feet, and then you can angle it down. So like a lot of people, when they walk in the woods, they're looking eye level. They're not looking very high up. But I made a couple of those this year out of like stainless steel hardware, some eye bolts and stuff. I've been real happy
Mm-hmm.
with them because I like to be able to kind of adjust those angles. So I don't know if you'd
No,
ever use
I've
anything
never
like
used
that.
them. No, I never used anything like that. I just kind of just strap them in with the stock strap that comes with them and put a stick behind it to get the angle.
Yeah, I
And
know.
just
I
I
just
don't
I just
know.
thought about this, but I know some states have regulations on what you can screw into trees too. So you got to be kind of careful with that.
Yeah, in Michigan, I believe that's probably you can't do that. That's illegal. You can't screw anything into a tree.
Um, so I made mine. I made mine out of stainless hardware. They were a little cheaper, or whatever. But yeah, I can. I'll send you over kind of how to make them up if you ever decide you want to try something like that. It was a lot
Yeah,
cheaper
that'd
to
be
buy
awesome.
though to make them myself than to buy, and a lot of the ones that you buy are made out of steel. So within like a year, they want to rust.
Yeah, yeah. So stainless steel is definitely the way to go with that.
So you may you may try to pattern some deer on public. I don't know, like in your home state. I imagine you're probably not doing it a whole lot during the rut in Ohio. But do you think, like, I don't know, early archery season in Michigan, or is it possible to pattern bucks on public? What do you think? I mean, with all the people running around.
I've never had luck with it, but I'm not going to say it's impossible. I just feel like it's so pressured in Michigan that uh, they're very they're going to go how the pressure feels. The pressure is going to affect them in every decision they make. So I've seen deer one day a mile away from where it was yesterday. So it depends on what the pressure is, how many people are out there walking around, trampling around in the woods, spooking it. You also got bird hunters too in the archery season. So you get people with dogs out there that will spook up deer like crazy. And so I'm not going to say it's impossible, but I've never personally been able to pattern a mature deer. I have seen younger deer, like 1.5-year-olds. You'll see them walk by in the same place in the same time of day.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen that. I've seen does with fawns do that, as long as you're not spooking them. Yeah, I've seen that, but not anything that would be considered anywhere mature in Michigan do that.
So Kentucky's archery season starts September 4th, and Indiana has an early reduction zone season September 15th. It's kind of like city limits in certain areas, but our Indiana's main season starts October 1st. But with the September 4th stuff, you kind of have bucks still on summer feeding patterns. Do you feel like if Michigan started maybe a month earlier, you think that would change the game on trying to pattern them? Or you think it's still too
Maybe.
pressured?
Well, everyone wants to get out there. So, and there's, don't quote me, but there was 350,000 bow hunters in Michigan last year. So, I mean, and they're all ready to and geek to go. So, in Michigan, we had the youth season,
Okay.
which was last weekend. So, you'll get deer that was shot last weekend in the youth season. And this weekend was a private land only, but it's an early doe season. So, yeah, there's already some pressure on them, and I'm sure people are doing scouting right now for their main archery season. So, and then the bird hunters started just the other day on the 15th. Small game season opened up, so the bird hunters are going to go in there, and they're gonna run around the woods too. So right around September, you kind of see the bucks kind of disappear during daylight hours anyway, and start moving off their summer feeding regiment and finding something new.
So back to this scenario, let's play back in. We just got to Ohio with you, and you got to the cabin, you slept, and it's the next morning, or maybe the night before. What are you putting in your backpack? What are you carrying in? Are you going super heavy? Going super light? Kind of tell us what you carry in the woods. What you feel is essential to take in on public land. I imagine you're spending a lot of your day out there since you've traveled and stuff. So I bet you're taking some food or some water with you at least.
I try to take food and water with me. That's probably water's number one food. If I don't eat it by 10 a.m., I'll have bring food with me. But other than that, I try to be as minimalist as possible. I've been trying to do that the last couple of years, just not taking things that I don't need with me. And I always have my saddle. I have my steps. I have a grunt call, maybe a rattling bag, my knives, my license, and that's what's in my bag. Maybe a small saw to trim some branches,
Okay.
but that's it. That's all I bring with me.
Have you found out kind of over the years? I know I have that sometimes you take all this stuff in there and then you end up like not using 75% of it. And you're like, why am I carrying all this weight back here? And, if you're hunting 100 yards from the truck, it's fine. But when you're walking miles, especially an early season like me, man, it can, you break a sweat within 50 yards of the truck. You're like, what am I doing?
Oh, yeah.
It's
And
interesting to see
even,
what other people carry in their bags.
yeah, I try to go as minimalist as possible. I've been there where I had a backpack full of crap that I didn't need. So yeah, what do I need? What's the absolute least I need? And that's what I take. So I need to get up in the tree. I need my weapon, and I need my knife just in case I get one down, and a grunt call.
I think a lot of people, maybe more new hunters, they get caught up in the fact that they need a giant bag and they go down the aisle and they're like, I need this, I need this, I need this, I need all this stuff that's on the shelf, and sometimes it's just easier to keep it basic, especially if you're trying to be mobile, and move around. All that extra stuff in there, it creates a lot of noise. So I've been trying to do the same thing over the past couple of years too, but I do a little self-filming. So I get camera arms and cameras and batteries involved. And sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? Because it adds so much weight, but it's just part of it.
Yeah. When I started taking less stuff, I always thought about, well, what did my grandpa take out? He didn't have grunt calls, and they shot deer all the time. You see all these old timey pictures, and they got their orange cap and their gun, and that's about it. You don't need everything, every gadget. You don't need a lot to go out and kill deer. You really don't. So yeah, I just bring the least amount of stuff I need.
I think that's good to touch on for anybody like listening too. They just know, like, everything that you see anywhere, social media or TV or whatever, some of that's marketing stuff, and you don't always need all that junk. Just maybe you just need your bow and your stand and some water to get you by and a knife. Like, you don't have to have all the gurus and gadgets to get by or kill deer. What kind of bag are you carrying? Are you just carrying something cheap from Walmart or something? Or are you very I'm real big on Badlands bags myself. I really do like them. So I'm kind of, yeah.
I got an Alps Outdoor fanny pack with the backpack straps.
Okay.
And it's just it's basically a fanny pack. I have 2 side pockets. It goes around my waist, and then I have my Predator pack with my Predator platform attached to the backpack part stuff, and I have my sticks strapped to the top of my fanny pack there, and maybe a jacket or something that I didn't want to wear on the way in. And yeah, that's my setup.
Let me ask you, and you may not know specifics, but you can just guess. What do you think your whole carry-in, minus probably your bow or your gun, but your pack, your stand, all your stuff in your pack and your sticks, what do you think that weighs?
I know my sticks by themselves weigh just under 10 pounds.
Okay.
That's probably the heaviest thing I have is my sticks themselves. I run 4 Hawk Heliums that I cut down. They're the original length. I cut them down to save some weight, and altogether, they're like 9 pounds altogether. And then I just got my pack, my saddle, which weighs nothing. The ropes for the saddle weigh more than the saddle does. All together, 15 pounds, maybe.
Yeah, that's super light.
Give a few pounds.
Yeah, so, it's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's not bad at all. I've really been fine tuning that last 2 years, and I got it down to a pretty lightweight.
It takes a lot of practice to figure out or maybe hunts to figure out kind of what you need and how you can adjust and how you can cut stuff down, cut down weight. I recently I've always been mobile hunting a little bit, but not in the aspect of sticks and saddle and a like a hang on. I have a climber, I have a Summit, Viper, and it weighs like 25 to 30 pounds, I think. And then
Yeah.
I have camera gear, a camera bag. It's probably, I don't know, 5 pounds. But then my backpack, I've got water and just basic stuff, a knife, a flashlight, a rangefinder, and but I have camera arms and all this other stuff. So by the time I get all that strapped to my climber, gosh, I'm probably getting into, I don't know, 50 pounds, maybe even 60
Yeah.
pounds. So next year, I'm going to try to go a little lighter. I want to try to cut down to, I don't know, 25 to 30 total, but I'm still trying to figure all that out with the camera gear. Like you said,
Yeah.
it's
And the
tough
problem,
sometimes.
I had a climber and I didn't like the weight, all the weight on it, and I sweat a lot. So if I get a lot of weight on my back and I walk just a little ways, I'm drenched, and then I get cold once I get up there. So finding something that was way more a lot lighter than a climber was my priority a few years ago, and
I,
that's why I went to the saddle.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, that's why I went to the saddle. That way I can be mobile and it'd be ultra lightweight, and it helps me a lot personally, just not sweating to death while walking into the woods.
I really like the idea of having kind of options. I really like my Summit. I won't get rid of it, but there's certain situations where I'm going to be maybe 100 yards from the truck and there's a perfect tree where I would pick that over maybe some sticks, or, maybe if I'm sitting all day and it's cold out and I can stand to take all that weight in. But I think next year I want to flirt a little more with the saddles and the sticks and the hang on stands. And I don't know. It's just good to have options, I think.
Yeah,
I'm
they're all
glad.
tools, and every one of them is.
I'm glad you mentioned.
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. There's a little bit of a lag. I'm glad you mentioned sweating a lot, because I deal with that too. Hunting early season and packing all that in. What are you doing for scent control? Are you a believer in it? Do you just play the wind and forget about scent control? What kind of clothing are you wearing? Are you wearing high end stuff? You wearing cheaper stuff?
I'm wearing cheaper stuff mostly. Scent control. It's kind of a hot topic.
It is,
I
yeah.
do wash my clothes. I do wash my clothes in scent free detergent. I do all that. I keep it in a plastic tote. But beyond that, I don't really think, no matter what you get or money you spend, you're not going to beat a deer's nose. I mean, no matter what you're wearing, you're always releasing your scent out. No matter what you're wearing, somewhere there's exposed skin, and that deer doesn't need much to pick up on that. So I play the wind. I've been experimenting with thermals lately, which I'm still trying to understand myself. I play the wind. I have my milkweed. I make sure where if I think where the deer is going to come out at, my scent's not blown in them. I and a lot of it's just not under your total control, and
You
that
feel
you just got to hunt with it, got to work with it.
you feel it's important to just kind of do what you can, wash your clothes, take a shower and scent free, and just kind of move on. Don't kind of obsess over it. Or what would you recommend
Yeah,
somebody
I
just
don't
getting into
obsess
it?
over it. I would not obsess over scent control. I would, you can buy scent free detergent anywhere. You go any of your outdoor sections in your Walmarts, you'll find scent free soap. I mean, I would do that. And outside of that, you're just not going to control your scent. You just got to play the wind and
So
yeah, just got to play
we'll
the
pre-
wind.
we'll pretend we're back in Michigan, I guess. So it's October 1st. Uh, what are you focusing on? Food sources? Are you trying to get in bedding, or what's that look like?
I like to find food sources so I can try to figure out where they're coming from, and then get closer to where they're coming from than to the food source. Because a lot of times you're only going to see deer within 45 minutes to an hour of daylight left, or in the morning, the first 45 minutes to an hour. So you want to catch them going in and coming or going out. And I'm not super confident just yet to really get into those bedding areas, but I can recognize where the food is and try to figure out where they're coming from and try to set up somewhere in between.
What are they? What are the deer eating on there in October? Are they still hitting fields, or are they transitioned to acorns and stuff?
If it's a good acorn year, they'll transit. In my experience, they transition over to more acorns. The soybean fields will be by October 1st are either extremely brown or being picked already. So they tend to leave those cornfields. They'll stay in cornfields until it's picked. But deer in the woods are eating acorns, and if they can stay in the woods and stay in the cover, they're going to do that. Or you'll find once in a while, you'll find some scrub apple tree in the middle of the woods, and they really like the apples, especially the first week of October. They're not all off the tree yet. So if you can find get lucky and find an apple tree, I would set up on that first couple of days in October, especially if you're going for like maybe getting your doe early or something. That's definitely set up on an apple tree.
Let's pretend maybe you're going after work, I don't know, and you're kind of scouting some fields, and you're like, man, these bean fields are yellow or they're brown. Not seeing any deer. So you're like, oh, okay, they're moved to acorns. So you go in, you're scouting your way in to hunt. How do you know when you find the right section of acorns? I mean, maybe you're hunting an area that only has, I don't know, a few acorns, but if you're in an area that has a ton of acorns and it's a good year, how do you know when you're in the right spot? Because I mean, at that point, you're just kind of hope they show up,
You'll see the ground, the leaves on the ground be a little turned over. You'll see tracks and you'll see poop. And I mean, you'll see, it almost looks like turkeys has been through there. It's just, but not quite, like kind of, but not quite. They're just kind of turned over. You'll see impressions where they maybe, sunk, their foot sunk into the ground a little bit. You'll see poop. You'll see trails going in and out. You'll see a runway. Maybe you'll just kind of know, like, oh, deer have been here. And you'll see caps. They don't eat the caps off the acorns, so you'll see caps everywhere. Yeah, that's the biggest thing. You'll find poop. You'll find turned over leaves because they're nuzzling their nuzzle into the leaves to grab the acorns that are underneath on the ground.
So you're telling me that I find the sign, I can find the deer. But let me ask you this. How do I know if it's daytime sign or nighttime sign? Is there any way to know other than hanging a camera? Because I know a lot of guys probably struggle with that.
No, most of the sign you're going to see by a mature buck is going to be at nighttime, especially if it's in a feeding area. You'll see like a rub in the feeding area. For a fact that's a nighttime rub. That's a nighttime sign. That's why you try to find to where they're going to go. Like in the morning, they're going to go back to the bedding area. You got to find where they're coming from. A 2.5-year-old deer won't be out and about in early season and just out in the open eating, especially in Michigan with how heavy the pressure is. They've already been shot at probably once or twice in their lifetime, and they learn really quick. If you can get on a 3.5-year-old deer in Michigan consistently on public land, you're doing something right. So not a lot of deer make it past. Not a lot of deer make it past a year and a half in Michigan on public land, let alone you get a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old in there.
So you find where you find your bedding, and you find your food, and you find a tree you want to get set up. What are you using? You're using just mainly a saddle. Can we talk a little bit about that? I know it's grown in popularity over the past few years. I hear a lot of good things about them. I've never sat in one. I've never actually held one or looked at one, so I couldn't tell you anything about it. But are they really that comfortable? I mean, I don't know. Are other brands more
Yeah,
comfortable than ones? Or
all I've ever had was a tethered. I have a tethered mantis, which was, I mean, now it's probably their cheaper one. At the time that when I bought it, it was probably their second in the line behind the Predator, I think it is. Um, it's not as adjustable as the Predator is, and that's what lacks in it. Every For me, I'm a wider hip guy, so after 6 hours in the tree, it will start to kind of pinch my hips a little bit, and I have to
okay.
kind of adjust it. But all in all, I mean, I don't I don't get a sore ass like I did in a tree stand. And I'm not standing up all the time and sitting back down. I just, you're just kind of leaning there, and you just do a little lean every couple of minutes. You're not standing up, you're not sitting down. I like the saddle a lot better than a tree stand so far. This is going to be last year was my first year in the saddle. This year will be my second. Um, it's different, but there is a little bit of a learning curve, but it's an easy learning curve. And the biggest thing is learning how to really get off that platform and lean in, because you're so DNA hardwired not to fall off that thing. But if you really do, it's not even a big deal. I mean, you're tight as it is. So if you slip down, it's like just dropping your legs and you're just there. So that's a little bit to get used to. But once you kind of swing around in it for a few minutes, it's really comfortable. It's not bad at all. I really like it.
So there may be some people that don't know how like a saddle works or what it really is. I don't know. Could you kind of explain like how you're tied in? Like how are you tied off to the tree? I guess would maybe be a
Well,
better, maybe kind of describe what the saddle looks like and how you're tied in to
the saddle
something.
just it kind of just it just goes around your butt. It has
Okay.
a belt buckle. You belt it in, and then mine has two straps that go around my legs and hook into the belt itself. So you're in, and then you have your what you call your bridge is what holds you in. You wrap a rope around the tree, and that's your tether. Just like a hunter safety harness. You just
Uh-huh.
feed the loop through, and you hook your carabiner into your bridge, and you're held up. You're
Okay.
held up by your bridge and everything. You're just leaning there off your platform.
So you have buckles like a safety harness, like a regular safety harness, tree stand harness that go around your legs.
No, they're not. They're not buckles that go around my legs. They're just like a C clip, and they just kind of go into a loop. So
Okay.
there's no buckle. It's just a C clip that goes into a loop.
If you, I know, like in a harness, if you turn upside down, it's still going to hold you. If you flip upside down, is that thing going to drop you out of it?
I personally never went upside down in one,
Yeah.
but if you go on Tether's YouTube channel, I think they have a test, like a laboratory test of having a dummy upside
Hmm.
down in one, and it never fell out. But I personally, I kind of like to stay right side up, so
Yeah.
I've never, hey, let's try this. So
You'd say they're pretty
and
safe,
it's
though.
really kind of, oh yeah, I feel very safe. I feel safer in a saddle than I ever did in a tree stand.
Really. That's
Yeah,
interesting. So you're basically putting up your sticks with a lineman's belt, strapping your platform
yeah,
on,
yeah,
putting
yep,
your rope on, transitioning with your saddle already on you, just in case you fall. Once um, yeah. So seems to be pretty
yep.
safe. I just was kind of wondering about not having an upper part, like up on your shoulders, how it like ties you in and everything. Like I said, I've never messed with one, so
I would find someone that has one and try one. I think you understand. It's hard for me to explain, but once you're in one, it just kind of hugs your whole midsection. You're in, you're secured. You're not going to go anywhere.
how long does it take you to get set up and with sticks and a saddle? From the time you get to the base of the tree till
Depends
you're
how
ready to shoot.
depends how quiet I'm going to try to be and how high I'm going to go. I mean, I would say once I start doing it, about 15 minutes it takes me, and I'm going slow because I want to be quiet. So I know guys can get up there in 2 minutes, and that's awesome. But I rather play it slow and quiet. So it takes me about 10 to 15 minutes to get up into the tree.
I'd say you probably.
If I'm being quiet,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. Oh, I lost my train of thought now.
I'd say that you're probably you probably have a lot more energy when you get to base of a tree than I do when you're carrying a saddle versus carrying 50 or 60 pounds. Like sometimes when I get to the base of that tree, I'm like, gosh, I'm already wore out, sweating to death. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I really like the thought of having a 1 or 2 pound, however much it weighs, saddle and something light. Like I don't know. What does one of those saddles cost?
I mean, they range in prices to whatever company you go to, but tethered is I don't know the prices right off the top of my head, but for just the saddle itself, that's not including the platform. That is not your ropes. That is not anything. That is just the saddle. I think they cost right around $200.
Okay.
But then you get into your platform. That's probably it'll burn another $200. It's not quite $200, but it's right there. Then your ropes are a little extra, and whatever accessory you can get, bags with them, those cost a little bit. And depends on what you get and what you want.
It's all depending on the brand and everything. I'm sure there's more expensive ones and there's probably cheaper ones. I'm going to jump in a little bit to scents and lures. I know some states you can only use synthetic stuff. Do you use any of that stuff like mock scrapes? I don't know. Do you mess with any of that or
post rut? I don't really post rut. I always like to keep a buck and runt scent stick. Scent Quest, was it Conquest Scents? Yeah, Conquest Scents makes them. They look like a deodorant stick.
Mm-hmm.
I like to have the buck and rut during a rutting buck during like pre-rut, almost rut, because I've had more reactions for bucks that smell another deer they don't know in there, especially when they start to be aggressive, than I ever had with a doe in heat, because I really feel like they know what does are close to being in heat, and a random doe in heat scent just kind of makes them a little nervous. But if you get a scent of a buck in there, a rutting buck in there, you're going to get the dominant buck to react some way or form. He's going to put more rubs down. He's going to put more scrapes down. He's going to try to let that other buck know that he's number one in that area. So that using buck and rut scents always has worked out a little bit better for me.
I remember, and I don't know if it's when it first came out, but years ago, gosh, when I was in high school, maybe sophomore year, probably 12 years ago, I remember seeing that stuff on the shelf and getting some of it, but it was expensive back then. I remember I bought like the doe and estrus one, and it was like $50 or $60 for a stick. I don't know what it costs now, but I used it and had pretty good success with it, but I haven't used it in a long time.
I think they sell them in like a 2-pack. You'll get like they call it a bedding scent or a calming scent.
Yeah,
and then you can get the buck and rut scent. Yeah, and I think it's like $40. It's about $20 a stick from
Yeah.
anywhere that I look.
Would you recommend that to
So yeah,
people?
for a scent, it's probably I'd recommend that'd be the only scent I would recommend. Yeah.
How are you? Where are you deciding to put that stuff at? I know for anybody that doesn't know, it basically, I mean, it looks identical to a deodorant stick. You kind of run up the tab and you get more out of it, and just kind of rub it or whatever. Are you putting it on your boots? Are you putting it near bedding areas? Are you putting it on scrapes you found? Where are you applying it at?
I put it on scrapes. I'll
Yeah.
find a scrape and I'll take the top off and just scrape it off and let it go
Mm-hmm.
right into that scrape. And then I'll keep on going. It's enough for them to get the scent down, and because they don't really know what a chunk of white stuff is.
Yeah.
So all they know is that scent, and that scent is another deer that they're not going to like.
You feel
So
like that stuff.
that's
You
all
feel
I
like
ever
that stuff
use.
lasts longer because it's more of like a stick or whatever. It's not like it's more of a harder substance. It doesn't just like drip out of a dripper straight into the ground and soak into, the dirt. It kind of sticks
Uh,
around. Do you like it because of that?
no, I like it because I don't get it all over my hands when I'm out hunting. It's in a stick form, so I'm
Yeah.
not dripping it all over my hands, or that's disgusting to me. So, I like it. That's a stick that I can apply it to a tree and not have to touch it and not get that on my hands and smell like a rutting deer all day long.
I remember always liking that stuff too because in early season, if you put or when it's still warm out, if you put deer pee in your vehicle, like sometimes I leave my hunting bag or something in my truck and it has deer pee in it, man, that stuff gets hot. Those sticks don't seem to they don't really like melt or anything. You don't have to keep them refrigerated. Like you just kind of throw them in your pack and they're just like there when you need them. I don't know. I'm a
Yeah,
big fan. I don't know why I haven't used them in a while, like maybe during the rut or something or pre-rut. I don't know. I got away from them for some reason, but I may jump back into that stuff. I've been seeing it a lot more on shelves lately.
yeah.
As far as early archery season, I know October here is still pretty warm. What do you do about mosquitoes? I know you guys got to have mosquitoes in Michigan. How are you battling that? Because those
We
little
do.
pesky things, man, they can get on your nerves.
I've never really had too much of a problem in the first week of October with mosquitoes. If it's warm, you may have an issue, but if it's warm, I'll just bring my thermocell with me. And I've never really had too big of an issue with mosquitoes in hunting season. I mean, once in a blue moon, you get a year that's a little warm, and you may have some buzzing around you, but I've never been like I have to get out of here. It's this bad. I've never been like that. I never felt that way. So where I hunt in Michigan, it's not too bad.
I love my thermocell. I've been using one for a long time. Like I don't know when they came out, but I feel like I started using them right when they came out. And I see a lot of stuff about people saying, "Oh, does that work?" or "It doesn't work." Man, I absolutely swear by those. But one problem I worry about, and I try to play the wind, but sometimes the wind shifts. Is they kind of sometimes they'll put off a little bit of a smell. You say you don't use them probably that much, but you think you worry about that kind of stuff because it does kind of smell chemically.
Yeah, I never really worried about it too much, but I mean, it may be a day here and there that I had to use it, so I don't really worry about that too much at all.
I've been kind of finding myself. I used to turn it on right when I'd go, head from the truck, but now I kind of adjust as if I need it. There's some nights or some areas that are worse, and I'll have to absolutely turn it on, or I'm never gonna see deer because I'm swatting so much, or I'm gonna have to get down. I'll use it, but if I
Yeah.
can just kind of get by without it, I try to do that lately. What are you doing for calling stuff? Maybe let's do early season in Michigan, and let's do the rut in November in Ohio.
Uh,
What are you using? Are you early season? Are you grunting and rattling yet? Or are you waiting until you get to Ohio to mess with any of that stuff?
I'll I in past I've used to I never did any of that until maybe the middle of October.
Okay.
But I actually listened to a podcast. It was THP, and they had a guy about this time last year, and he talked about rattling in the early season where bucks are coming out of their bachelor groups and they're starting to get their own bedding areas, and you'll have some bucks kicking out some bucks away, and that's never really done nicely. They always seem to spar. They might run another deer off. There's not downright fights, but you might hear some antlers tickle every once in a while. So last year I did try just a light rattle right away, right in the very first part of bow season. That I didn't get any results. If I do grunt, it's very soft and very short, just a little, that's it. Just a little vocalization. Now, when I get down to Ohio, I will rattle the bag a little bit more, a little bit heavier. I will grunt a little bit more and a little bit louder, but really still little short bursts. That's worked out for me very well. I've shot a 2019. I called this 8-point in. It was like on a string. I kind of blind grunted, and he came right out of the bedding area, and I had a 20-yard shot at him, and I killed that deer. So, and it's happened several times. I see in Ohio that they react to calls a lot more than they do in Michigan. I believe that's because of some of the hunting pressure we see in Michigan. Is they hear calls all the time, and if they don't see them or smell them, they don't really go and investigate. So in Ohio, culling has worked way better than in Michigan.
Do you feel like you think your observation has anything to do with the time of year? Like you're in Ohio during the rut, you're maybe in Michigan. Well, I guess you live in Michigan. I don't know how much you hunt there during, that couple weeks or whatever, but do you think that's why, or do you think it's totally hunting pressure related, or a little bit of both?
I feel it's totally hunting pressure. To me, it's hunting pressure related because by the time a buck is 2.5 years old, it's got everything thrown at it. Every hunter's tried to grunt at it. It's been seen. It's heard everything. It's been shot at. It's possibly been wounded. So I just don't think they're, unless they hear, smell, or see the deer make the grunt, I don't think they won't really react to it. They just kind of ignore it. But in Ohio,
I'm sorry, there's that lag again.
Oh, yeah. I was saying, but in Ohio, they just react to it better, and then I think the buck to doe ratio contributes to that too. The buck to doe ratio, where I hunt in Ohio, I'll see a buck for every doe, where in Michigan I'll see 50 does before I see one buck. So okay. They're fighting for does more in Ohio. So
what would you, for anybody that maybe is new, maybe this is their first season or their second season, or maybe they just never maybe they don't have a grunt call or a rattle bag. I don't know their situation, but what would you recommend for somebody that wants to try out calling? Should they try it out, start slow, or should they just start banging that bag around and blowing that grunt call? Like, what should they try it, or should they just leave it at home?
I think it's worth trying. I think you have to learn how to do it. You just can't blow into a call and that's how what a deer sounds. A deer uses different vocalizations. So I mean, there's plenty of videos online that explain that, and you just can't listen, and you listen to them and try not to be too aggressive with it until you really know what you're trying to do and what kind of call you're trying to vocalize.
You think it does more harm than good sometimes, or
sometimes it does. I think grunting a deer can pinpoint where a grunt call came from. I've had deer come right into the base of the tree where I grunted from. So they really know exactly where that grunt came from. So it can hurt in a way that they could be coming downwind or they're on alert too. They're looking for something, and their peripheral vision's so good. You make a move to grab your bow or pull back, they're going to notice that and look up, and then they're gone. So it's really your personal feelings on what you want to do and the situation you're in.
I would urge anybody. I've never had a whole lot of success with rattling and grunts, but I've a little bit. So I would maybe urge people to try it. I think you try it and you kind of learn what works and what times of year, and it's definitely worth having in your bag in case you need it. I wouldn't leave it in the truck, but like you said, sometimes I feel like it can do more harm than good, but it depends on location and buck to doe ratio, and there's a ton of factors that can just play into it. But I like my rattle bag. It's small. I don't have to carry a big set of antlers in, and it's not too much weight. Yeah. So I try to keep one with me. How do you feel about October lulls? I mean, are you? I know some guys don't believe in that, or that's an excuse because guys can't get on deer. How do you feel about it? I don't really know how I feel about it.
It's iffy. I get why people feel about that. And I felt that too. Like, oh man, where's the deer? There's no deer here. And there was deer here 2 weeks ago. A lot of times I think it's based on pressure and changing food sources. Because in that time where I hunt in Michigan, it's agricultural. So a lot of harvests are starting to be taken and chopped down. And then, oak tree only can fall so many acorns, and apple trees only have so many apples. So you got your changing food situations and then pressure itself. So maybe they're staying into the beds and finding food sources closer to the beds, so they don't have to come out a long ways to get food. I can see where people really feel like there's an October lull, but I feel it's more pressure and food base than anything else. They just don't want to come out, or they're not there.
I think it's interesting if you were to change the seasons up a little bit and mess with the dates, that the October lull might be not so I guess a thing, because they could still be on. A lot of it has to, like you said, it has to do with changing patterns right around October, middle of October or whatever. And the food source all changes at one time. So there's two variables there. But I feel like if you were just to change patterns of the deer, like rut activity, or just change that maybe if it's early, I don't know, August or something, where they're still, not so aggressive and they're still on fields and stuff all the time. I feel like you said, you wouldn't see that as much, but it's because it all happens at one time in that 2 week period. It's just it goes from being super good to just shutting down. Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah,
I struggle with it every year too. I know a lot of guys do, but you just got to kind of keep after them and probably stay mobile. I would say if you're sitting in the same stand night after night, you're probably going to get the same results.
Yeah, exactly. If you have to move in that situation, you're not seeing deer. it's no point in staying there except if you just enjoy being out in the woods and not seeing deer. You have to move. You have to you have to move, and you'll end up getting on deer. And you just got to hunt the sign. You maybe have to push your personal preferences a little bit, your boundaries a little bit. And I mean, it's public land. So if you bump one off, you got to learn from it. You got to take it all in. You got to learn from it. If you didn't bump it off, probably someone else would have done it. So the best thing to do is learn from it.
So I have 3 more questions for you. If you've got the time, we'll go through them. I know it's kind of late, so I don't want to keep you too long. But so I don't know. Let's say you go to Ohio. I don't know, maybe Michigan, and it could be a different answer in both areas. You shoot a deer. How are you getting it out? Are you riding a 4-wheeler on public? I know that's not allowed in very many places. Are you going back and getting a cart? Are you dragging it out by hand? Are you quartering it out, putting it in game bags and packing it out? How do you go about all that? And how do you recommend people, like maybe a new hunter, maybe this is his first season and he's getting ready to go out. He doesn't know really what the best route is. I drag and use a game cart. But yeah, I'd like to hear your thoughts. What works best for you?
What works best for me, I personally have a jet sled, ice fishing sled that works really well. There's jet sleds, there's otter sleds. They seem to work really well, especially on flat area, even on hilly areas, especially if you're by yourself, because it's easy to lift up over a log or any kind of debris. The deer fits in there pretty well. You might have to tuck its legs in and might have to, if it's a nice buck, you might have to get his antlers, his head in such a way so it doesn't catch on anything. But if you're by yourself, I think a jet sled is the best way to get a deer out. It's a lot less friction. It's a sled, so it's going to slide on the ground. That's what I've been using for years now. I have drugged them out. That's a pain. I have used a deer cart. In my experience, a deer cart is probably the best thing to use if you have a buddy. Mm-hmm. You can take turns, or you can both get on there and walk out. The reason why you probably need a buddy is to get up over logs. Sometimes you need to lift that whole thing up over. So by yourself, a cart, it depends what type of terrain you're hunting. If you're hunting in a field, yeah, it'd probably work out great. But if you're trekking through the woods by yourself, I think you're going to have a harder time than a sled. I've never really quartered out a deer. I thought about it, but I don't have the backpack to pack it out. If I had a backpack, I think I would consider it, especially if it was a long ways off the road. I would consider quartering it up right there and taking it out. Game bags are cheap, and you can get them at any outdoor or Amazon or anywhere really, and everything's done right there. You're in the woods. You just get it bagged up, cut up, and bagged up, and on your back, and you're out. So that's always a good option if you have the backpack to do that. But I personally don't. So it's not a bad way to go, in my opinion.
A lot of it's terrain specific, I guess. I've heard of people using sleds, but I've never used one. What's a sled like that cost? Are they pretty big?
There's different sizes. They're made for ice fishing. They're made to haul your gear out onto the lake. They're not really made for putting dead deer in and going into the woods. But you can spend from $30 on the smaller ones. I don't even know how much a big one costs. Maybe under $100. You can get a jet sled, and they're thick. They're not like a sled you buy for kids to go down the hill. They're a thick, durable plastic. So they can take a hit. They can They can roll. They can go over a tree just fine. You're not going to crack it. So I mean, they're good quality piece of plastic. They're a thick plastic. So you're going to have a hard time
check into that.
breaking one. Oh, it's popular here because ice fishing is popular here. So everyone might just have one, and it's just a good cheaper option.
So as far as public land goes, I know I know I have. I can't think of anything specific, but I've met some oddballs and stuff over the years. I don't know. Have you ever had anything crazy happen to you on public, or can you think of a certain situation or anything like that? Maybe you got shot at. Maybe somebody, I don't know, broke into your vehicle. You ever have anything crazy like that on public land?
When I was a teenager, I did hunt a little public land right behind my house, not too far away, and I was setting up a tree stand, and I had a bird hunter come up pretty close. I could hear him walking up. I think he had his son with him or something, and you can hear them talking back and forth. And then I heard the bird flush up, and then I heard the shot go off, and all the shot to the leaves right next to the tree that I was in. So that freaked me out. Me and my brother and I walked up on a guy during turkey season. He said he was out mushroom hunting, which was totally plausible at that time because morels come up around the same time you're turkey hunting. But he definitely gave us both this guy's a freak, man. He was an oddball. Besides that, all my encounters have been pretty kosher. You're going to walk up on people, and sometimes you're just walking and scouting and another guy's walking and scouting. Other times you'll walk up a guy in a tree stand and you're just curious. You always, oh, sorry. And you turn around the other way. You don't continue trekking through where they're hunting at. You go back the way you just came in from, and common courtesy. And the thing is, everyone, I said this earlier, but everyone in that public land has a right to be there. So you can't get too discouraged. It's easy to just get discouraged, especially when you thought you found something nice and then you see a couple of guys up in there, and it's easy, but you really can't. You can't get too discouraged because everyone's doing the same thing. Everyone's enjoying the same thing. And it should be almost celebrated that everyone's out there hunting and trying to get some food on the table and just being an American. Everything should be kosher, and you just use common courtesy. And I've never had an issue with anyone before.
So you hunt out of state a little bit. Have you ever had any run-ins with locals, or maybe not locals, but guys that are from Ohio? They see your plates or whatever, and they're like, I don't know, maybe they act different towards you because you're from out of state. You ever had anything like that?
Not in the woods particularly. We were renting a cabin from a guy. There's a couple years there we didn't rent a cabin in the state park because we thought we can get it cheaper somewhere else. And there's a bunch of cabins for rent right around the same area. And we stayed there for 2 years, and at the end, okay, we're gonna book it as soon as we can. And the guy told us, oh, you guys have this week. We booked it right there. So about a month, it was October 1st. I'm getting excited for bow season. I get a phone call from my buddy that kind of organized all the Ohio trip. He's like, we lost the cabin. He double booked it, and since the guys who booked it were from Ohio and we're from Michigan, he gave it to the guys that were from Ohio. And so you're in a month now. That's the 1 year we took campers down there, because you're in a month, everything's booked up. We couldn't find a cabin in that short of time frame, but we found a campground. So that's what we ended up doing that year. And since then, we found one more cabin, but it just the guy, the owner of that cabin, he didn't treat us all that great. He upcharged us as soon as we got there because I guess we brung one guy too many. And he told us this after he hung out with us the night before eating our fish and drinking our beer. So we wined and dined this guy. And then the next day he's like, I'm going to charge you more. So from then on out, we just decided to spend the extra couple of dollars and go to the state park. And that way they don't screw with us. You know, they're just, we book it, we pay for it, and we don't have any worries after that. So we've been into that state park again for a couple of years now.
So anybody listening, be careful when you're hunting out of state, because they might get on you a little bit if you're an out of stater. Sometimes they don't like people coming to hunt their public. They want it all to themselves. So you gotta plan with fire there. You can be sometimes. People give you funny looks and stuff like that can happen.
Yeah, who you come all the way down here for? And it's a Michigan, Ohio thing. It's if you're not from Michigan or Ohio, it's a thing. It's a little bit of a thing. We got a football game every year that people take way too seriously, and it's kind of a thing. And I went to college in Ohio and I experienced it there. Nothing too crazy, but it was just kind of you're from Michigan. So
that's
it's
an Indiana, Kentucky kind of thing too.
Okay. So it's something to be aware of. It's something to be aware of, but I mean, I wouldn't dwell on it too much.
Let me I've got one more question for you, but I'll throw this other question in too, because it just kind of popped in my head. Why not Indiana? You got to be somewhat close to that too. Why don't you come down here? And
we've actually sat down and said we're going to Indiana next year because it's $100 cheaper. Let's just go down to Indiana. And for some reason, our buddy who he does everything, he just we're going to Ohio this year. You know, we just can't get away from we've shot some big deer down in Ohio, and we just can't get away from it. So last couple of years, let's try something new. Let's go to Indiana, and then we're going to Ohio again. So okay, I'm kind of going with the flow here.
It's hard when you get into an area, and over the years you learn it. You kind of know what to do. You kind of know what to expect. You kind of know where you're going. To just like, you know, you have pretty good success because you shot some pretty nice bucks on public, right? So why just throw it all away and come to Indiana where you know nothing about it? I mean,
yeah, it's gonna be a new. You know, we know that area of Ohio really well. We've been hunting it, and it's just so familiar. So to start over, I don't think some of the guys in the camp really want to start over. You know, we got it so good here. Why are we trying to fix something that isn't broken? That's the attitude. So I know you guys have some nice deer in Indiana. I would love to try Indiana one day. So it'd be something new to try and something I would definitely consider doing.
Yeah, man, if you ever need any tips on, I'm no expert, but if you ever need any tips on maybe some public to check out or anything like that, you know, I'm an open book. I'll help you out as much as I can. I'm friendly to out-of-staters. I know not everybody is, but I try to be.
Well, that's good. I'll keep that in mind.
So the last question I have for you, what's some of the mistakes you've made in the past on public that you think could maybe help people out? Maybe it was last year, maybe it was 10 years ago, but yeah, what could you tell people to maybe they can avoid doing themselves?
I can tell you something I did wrong last year in Ohio. Last year, um, the first week of November, the leaves were super crunchy and it was super loud to get through the woods. And I found a good little spot. It was down from where it was clear cutted, and it came right up this hill up into this oak flat, and it looked too good not to hunt or at least try out. But every day I would go down there. I'm working on this on myself. I have to become more patient, but I get so jacked up and I just want to go, and I don't. I forget how fast I'm going and how loud I'm going. And I think I went down in the same area too many times, just a couple, twice a day coming in and coming out. So I think that screwed up that area for me because I think they heard me coming down that hill for sure. And then I hunted the same spot too long. I always grew up hunting. Like when I learned how to hunt, this was your spot and you just kind of hunted it. And that is still kind of, I'm working out of that. I should have kept moving down the ridge. I kept moving down the hill. Instead, I stayed in the same spot and hoped to see a buck come out of there. And yeah, that was my mistake. I went down there way too loud, way too fast, and then I stayed in the same spot for 3 days when I should have been moving down the line a little bit, because that's where they were coming from when I did see them there. So I should have kept on moving that way. That's one mistake. Right off the top of my head, make sure you bring, when you pack for an out of state, don't forget your scents and your grunt call. Little things. Make a list and check it. Make your list out, and then when you're packing it into the truck, check it off. Like, I got this, I got this, I got this. That's an easy one to do. I've forgotten little stuff that, how did I forget that?
That's stuff you take in every time, but it's easy sometimes when it gets thrown around in your vehicle, or I don't know, you leave it in your pocket and you go to wash your clothes, you throw it in the laundry room, or it ends up in a toy box somehow. I don't know. It's good to make a list, I think, too.
Yep.
I know what you're talking about, like rushing in, making a lot of noise. Sometimes if I ever hunt after work or something, I'm always short on time, and sometimes I feel like I rush in, and sometimes it's just better not to go because you end up screwing up an area because you're running to your stand and you're sweating and you're forgetting stuff. And
Yep.
I don't know, it's all got to be a well thought out process. And when you talked about moving around, I mean, if you're on a week hunt out of state and you're not seeing anything, you probably need to get up and move. I know a lot of people, me included, have just stuck it out. And if you're not seeing deer, you're not going to make it happen. So I think it's important.
Exactly.
I've gotten that way too. If I don't see a deer in one or two sets, I'm moving. Like, I'm not going to sit somewhere for a week and not see anything, especially if I'm traveling out of state and I've only got a week to make it work. Well, I appreciate you taking the time, Wes. We're right at an hour and a half, and it's kind of, I know you're an hour ahead, so I'm sure you're a busy guy and you got things going on. Could you tell everybody where to find you on social media? You're on Instagram. I've seen some of your stuff on there. Tell everybody where to find you. Maybe people can connect with you that live near you, or maybe if they have questions about public. I know you hunt a lot of public ground and you shot some nice deer, so you might be able to help some people out, which is what we're trying to do.
I'm Hunter West 86 on Instagram. That's where I post most of my hunting stuff at. Anything throughout the year. If I'm shooting my bow, I'll post that. I don't post a crazy amount, but if I post something, it's usually hunting related on that. I got my Facebook account too, but that's more of a personal thing. I don't post a lot of hunting stuff on that, or post at all, really. Just Hunter West 86 on Instagram. You can find me there.
Would you be open to people messaging you if they have questions about public, or maybe they have questions about, I know you're not asking you to give up your spots or anything, but if someone's like, man, where do I start? Like, I heard you kind of talking about it and stuff. Would you be open to helping people out if they want to shoot you a message?
Yeah, I'll be open to it. I definitely I like helping people out. I'm not going to give you my spot, but I'll definitely I'll point you in the right direction at least. I'll try to.
Cool. I think it's important that we kind of help people out, because at one time, I mean, I still have questions about a ton of stuff, and there's people out there that know more than me, and there's people out there that know a lot less than me. So yeah, we got to kind of help each other out and
oh yeah, for
do this
sure.
thing we
You
love.
never can. Yeah, you can never stop learning. So take every opportunity to ask any question multiple times to different people. Just because one person says it this way, it doesn't make it the only way. Check out different people. Everyone does things differently, and it's right every single time. It's right for that person, and something that's right for this person may be wrong for you. Uh, Learn everything you can and take everything in. Ask questions and leave your ears open. So, yeah, I'm always down to learning something, and I'm always willing to help someone out.
All right, guys. Well, that's where we're going to end it. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe if you're watching on YouTube, or follow us on Apple or Spotify or Google, whatever platform you're on. Leave us a review. Let us know how we're doing. And it really does help out. People can kind of check out the podcast and see if it's worth a damn, I guess. So the reviews and everything, the subs and stuff actually do help out. So anyone that's done that, I appreciate that. So we'll get out of here, Wes. I'll get in touch with you maybe later on in the season. Maybe we'll catch up on some stuff. I'm sure I'll talk to you on TikTok
Okay.
or Instagram, and I'll kind of keep updated on what you got going. If you shoot something, nice, or you have any questions too, you can always shoot me a message. You know where to find me. So I
Yeah,
appreciate it,
we'll
man.
do. I'll definitely. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. It's been nice. This is my first podcast, and I was really excited to do this, and I really enjoyed it.
Now, hopefully you weren't too nervous. You seem to do pretty well. So maybe somebody else will ask you to be on their podcast.
Maybe. Yeah, I'm more than willing. This is this. I like sharing information, so yeah,
That's cool,
I
man.
really enjoy doing this.
I'll talk to you soon, and stay safe.
Yep, you too.
All right, we'll see ya.